Hey, hey, you. You want to go over ISO 8 for Mercenaries? Well, don't worry. Today we're gonna cover that. What's going on? Well, it's your boy Ken, and we're gonna be covering in this one a segment that we do every single Wednesday in my community. It's called ISO 8 Wednesdays, and we do mercs on this one. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you guys haven't checked me out in the past, I do stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And as I mentioned, on Wednesday we do ISO Community Days. So it's always fun. You guys get to join voice chat if you guys want, but at the same time, it's all about having fun and talking about what you guys are doing for ISO 8. So I do take into consideration, that they are a war team. So based on that, we're going to be discussing the ISOs. I think this was a fairly easy team to discuss, but yeah, also fun at the same time. So without further ado, let's get into it. So today, ISO 8 Wednesday, and we're gonna be covering Mercenaries. I think Mercenaries, like I said, are kind of like a straightforward team, but feel free to let me know in the chat what you guys do with your Mercenaries. For the most part, I've set ISOs for them thinking just war defense, and unfortunately, when you have a team that's on war defense, unless you actually go up against them, you don't really benefit, or you don't really see the turn order as it should be. You go based off of just base stats and whatnot. But we've gone up against Merc so much that I think by now it kind of makes sense what to do with this team. So based on whoever you're using, I know some people like to include Shuri. I've taken Shuri from my Mercenaries. I just don't see the benefit of having her, and in fact I like adding another mercenary in to this team, and I'm using Shuri now somewhere else in war. So I actually run full mercs when I put mercs on defense, and believe it or not, they're still getting me a lot of defensive wins. I haven't really built them too much. Where they are right now, they work okay. They're still a team that will still manage to get me a defensive win here and there. They win on their own too in blitzes as well with the ISO setups that I have set up for them. Very team specific too. Like I don't use them against just anybody. Like they don't wreck anybody per se. But they work well against like defenders in 8.3 and so on. Certain matchups work in their favor. But at the same time, you have to be mindful of who you're going up against in blitzing with them, because different story in war than it is in blitz with mercenaries. But so I'm gonna start talking about the actual mercs team. You don't really want to put Merc Soldier with the Mercs just because you benefit from using him with Skeletal if you're going to be running Skeletal. But even if you're not running Skeletal, I know some people have been running Merc Soldier due to the skill tag. So I'm not going to go too in depth into him. I think Striker makes sense. I guess I should start. Once again, this is why I think it's so easy to talk about Mercs. I normally don't do this. I don't start with the star of the show, with the star of the team, but we gotta talk about Taskmaster, because once again, he's the engine that makes Mercs go, and because of him is the reason why I've done the ISOs on the other characters. So if one of the mods can start the ISOs for Taskmaster, let me know what you guys are doing with Taskmaster. Here's why I have him as a skirmisher right now. So Taskmaster, and I actually T4'd his passive. On spawn, gain offense up for 2 turns, gain assist now on each mercenary villain's ally's turn. So mercenary villain, gain plus 25% block chance, gain plus 25 block amount, gain plus 20 chance to counterattack, gain 20% or plus 20% per mercenary ally, gain plus 10 damage kill. You get it. A lot of stuff goes on in this passive, right? On war defense, on spawn, you fill the speed bar for self and all mercenary villains allies by 10%, plus 10% per mercenary ally on turn if this character has 2 or more mercenary villains allies. Apply taunt to the enemy with the highest damage, which is why if you are running X-Force, you really want to make sure that your Deadpool has the highest damage in the team, because you want him to get the taunt, you want him to get targeted, and you want him to die as many times as possible. As long as your Domino stays alive, he will continue to revive on that team. So a good tip for you guys if you guys didn't know that by now. So very, very useful in that aspect. But once again, the reason why you want him as a skirmisher, gain assist now on every mercenary villain's turn. So as long as you have Taskmaster as a skirmisher. Every single time your team's gonna go, he will go ahead and assist and land that vulnerable. Very similar mechanic to Ms. Marvel, that if she will assist on every attack. And as you guys know, I haven't even covered Young Avengers, but I showcased them and I've said how good this team is with the right ISOs. It's the same concept with Mercenaries. And for the longest, I used to run Raider on Taskmaster because I figured Raider, he would still end up landing the vulnerables, but you don't want to take that chance of him doing an assist and not landing that vulnerable. So yes, Raider is technically another good ISO for him because you also end up having the opportunity to land vulnerables in place. But I think with Skirmisher, the guaranteed vulnerable in place, and then also in higher Skirmisher levels, anytime he assists, he's going to clear a positive effect too on the opposite end. I haven't done this yet, but I think this is going to be a really good thing in War once I end up bringing him up to level 3 ISOs. Level 5, you end up actually removing 2 positive effects. So anytime he ends up assisting, bam, 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 he's just constantly going to be removing positive effects on the attacking team. So a really, really good ISO, I think, for Taskmaster. You can consider him if you want to rate it. Like I said, I initially started with him as a raider, but I've been using him as a skirmisher and seen a lot more success with him because, once again, you get that guaranteed vulnerable, and if you have him at level 3 ISOs, you will remove positive effects. And the same thing, if you end up taking to level 5 ISOs, you will remove 2 positive effects. Yo, puppies, how you doing today? Welcome. Skirmisher all day, his assist, and you guys voted. 4 of you voted Skirmisher as well, 100% actually. So all of you guys agree with me that Skirmisher is the way with Taskmaster. This is why I said this team is kind of like very simple to kind of go when it comes to ISOs. A lot of other teams we've covered in the past, there's other opportunities to change the ISOs on them, but they have such a similar mechanic to Pimtax, where Ghost is the only striker. In this case, it's backwards. He's the only skirmisher, and you want to take advantage of him being a skirmisher. So he's very similar to Ms. Marvel in that aspect. That same thing with Young Avengers. You want Ms. Marvel to be the only skirmisher. So skirmisher, once again, will also give him more focus. Not that, to be honest, not that he needs it. He pretty much lands those blinds whenever he's doing his incendiary arrow. Attack all enemies for 160 damage. Apply blind to primary target and 1 random secondary target. Apply bleed for 2 turns. This is another one that I might end up T4ing at some point. We're gonna talk today too, probably about my T4 priority on T4s that I want to do in the game. But this is definitely a good T4 on him as well. Plus 40% damage to all targets. Apply blind to primary target and 2 random secondary targets. Then apply bleeds to all enemies, plus 20% piercing to all targets with bleed. Yikes. He hits next level with that ult if you end up T4ing that as well. So an amazing character, actually. Taskmaster has some value even outside of this team, but within this team, Skirmisher makes a lot of sense. So I think right outside of War and outside of the Merc team, Raider is where you can definitely get away with using that ISO mechanic with him as well, because he does have a multi-target special, and he has a multi-target ult as well. So you might as well try, depending all on the team composition, you can get away with using him as a raider, adding more damage to him. But I think within his team, you have to run him as a skirmisher. So this is why Taskmaster is a skirmisher. I'm gonna skip Deadpool because nowadays Deadpool is a part of X-Force. I've seen Deadpool for whatever reason. Maybe it's just the other opponent has never really built up the rest of the mercs, and I see Deadpool being a part of this team. But definitely X-Force is such a good War offense team that there's no point in you running Deadpool in War defense. So definitely use him with your X-Force team. If you are running him for whatever reason in this team, then I think Raider is going to be an option for him. You can also do Striker because Skirmisher is going to be, Taskmaster is going to be a Skirmisher, so you're going to be double tapping every time with DP. But once again, not ideal for the Mercenary War defense team. I think you can get away with using all these other characters. Killmonger right now has yet another home. He has Skeletal team, but if you are not building your Skeletal right away, which I think most people are probably gonna end up waiting, there's a lot of resources involved with Skeletal. So if you're still running Killmonger in War defense and you're running him with Mercs, and as you should, he is a wonderful piece to this team. He's the only one that I go back and forth between putting him as a striker and putting him as a raider. He just adds so much damage when you go into battle frenzy. And I do got a 5 red Killmonger. I think the higher the reds on him, the more that you almost want him as a raider. But at the same time, you cannot go wrong with having him as a striker, because once again, I think as long as all your mercs are doing double taps and taking advantage of the vulnerable that Taskmaster is leaving behind, then you're in a good place. But the added damage on this guy and the higher reds on Killmonger, it's always fantastic. I love Killmonger. He self heals as well. He's always a good character. In fact, he might be a good character to consider if you don't have like Baron Zemo in this game, and you're coming into like the point where you don't have a really built up Baron Zemo. For Dark Dimension 4 purposes, since he have the self heal, and if you have him at high reds, he might even be viable in Dark Dimension. Clearly, Wakandans were made to be like the premier team at one point in raids. It never really panned out. But out of the Wakandans team, he's definitely, I think, one of the few characters that shine. Him and Shuri really shine still in this game. So I run him as a raider. Retribution is a good passive on him. But once again, skill military is where you would T4 that for him. Battle frenzy, you chain to 5 adjacent targets, so you pretty much hit everybody on the field. But on crit, you attack all enemies for 175 damage and lose the charge. Otherwise, you gain the plus charge up to a maximum of 5. Counterattacks do break this chain, so that's something always to remember with this one. But taking advantage of the crits and giving him an opportunity to crit, that's why I like the raider on him, so that he can do that extra attack. You want to increase his crit chances by making him a raider. In that case, full auto, attack the primary target for 160 damage 3 times on crit, gain offense up and lose charge. Otherwise, gain +1 charge up to a maximum of 5. Once again, I think outside of the mechanic with Taskmaster, he just benefits from the extra crit that you're gonna get from making him a raider as well. On top of that, and like I said, you definitely want to make sure that if you have him as a raider, he ends up doing that extra attack for enemies at 175 damage. So that's why I think he should continue to maintain, stay as a raider, even with Taskmaster being super sure. All right, and then Bullseye, which I think right now, if some people are not running Killmonger in the team because they are using Skeleton, we're going to talk a little bit about Bullseye. I think Bullseye is a decent option in this team too. Kill shot, if you have a really high red Bullseye, this one actually hits pretty strong. I only have him at 4 reds, but at 5, 6, a 7 red Bullseye will probably delete, wreck some nerds, I'm not gonna lie, with his ult. You attack the primary target for 500 damage, and then you gain 30% chance, crit chance, and 20% crit damage for this attack as well. So that's kill shot. The card trick, they're all single attacks, which is why I think Striker makes the most sense for him. If you guys are gonna do anything other than that in this team, I think there's no reason behind it. You can do Raider, but Raider once again don't benefit from multi attacks on him, and yeah, you increase the crit chance, and increase his overall damage, but might as well making him a striker so he can double tap and take advantage of vulnerables in the playing field. So if you do his basic, you attack the primary target for 240 damage. This attack cannot miss, though it can't be dodged. So if there's already evades on the other field, you gotta remember that. Gain plus 15% crit chance for this attack as well. So this guy hits pretty hard, like I said. Yeah, he hits pretty hard, and he hits even harder the higher your reds on this guy. So definitely I think Striker is the best ISO for him. His basic will put tons of damage within this team. I've seen more defensive wins adding him into it. I never put him in because I was running Shuri and I was running Killmonger, but I took Shuri off, like I said, and now he's running in that team. But even if I were to take Killmonger from the team, he's definitely a really, really good option with this team. So something to remember with him. In War Defense also, he assists Mercenary allies on non-attack abilities as well. So you also get that basic to hit on those opportunities. So many attacks coming in from Merc left and right. If it's not from the assist from Taskmaster, then this guy will assist whenever you heal with your Merc Lieutenant and you call offense up, or whenever your Riot Guard is applying defense up. So plenty of opportunities with this guy to also assist and take advantage of his attack. And as a striker, he ends up gaining also more damage. So yep, I agree with you guys. So that's Bullseye. Merc Lieutenant is the only one in this team that I have as a healer, and honestly I wish I could have him as a higher ISOs to make sure that there's more sustain. He's the only sustain for this team, so that's the only thing about Mercs. They hit hard, they hit fast, but there's no sustain with this team outside of the deflex that Riot Guard is Merc Riot Guard is going to be putting on this team, and then he's the only healer. So for that reason, I think healer makes the most sense for him. Can you make a sense for him to become also another striker? Of course. As I just mentioned, Taskmaster being skirmisher, you can make this guy a striker and then he will double tap. And then anytime you attack with him, it's attack the primary target for 200 damage. Grant one ability to grant one ability energy to a random ally. Grant one ability energy to 2D random mercenary villains. So his basic is good. And you get that triple tap as well. But as I just mentioned, outside of deflex, there is no sustain on this team. So something to consider is striker for him, and I still think striker makes a lot of sense. I think you could literally run skirmisher and Taskmaster and have all your other mercs be strikers, but I do like the added sustain that he can bring, especially at higher heals. I have not prioritized the ISOs on him to make him a stronger healer, but if I were to build him up to like a level 4 healer and make sure that the health pool is a lot higher than this, then it would make even more sense, because the sustain would be actually at a different level with this guy. So he is a 5 red star character, so it's not bad, but he's very limited to, once again, to being the only healer really for this team. So for that and that reason alone, I run him as a healer, but I think striker is another good ISO that you can run on Merc Lieutenant. And then Chorus the Pursuit is another character that is single damage, single targeting on all of his abilities. Attack the primary target for 450 damage. Apply heal block for 2 turns. Apply ability block. And then on top of that, the other one, attack the primary target. Apply taunt to target for 1 turn. Gain an assist from an ally. Greater assist chances from Mercenary increase, so you're also going to get that if you're running him with the Mercs as well. Then you gain that extra focus for that attack. And then I like his basic, because it's basic slow for 1 turn. So once again, he will also be applying slow anytime he does his basic. So another opportunity for another striker in this team to take advantage. There's a lot of triple taps, especially in War. We're gonna run them. We're gonna run a simulation in Blitz, so you guys can see kind of like the turn order, I guess. But to be honest, it all goes out the window. You really need to see this team work in War defense, and with the ISOs in place like this, a lot of triple taps will happen for this team. So Merc Riot Guard, I also have him as a striker, and the reason being, he doesn't really do anything outside of taunting, anything outside of actually applying deflects to the rest of the team or those adjacent to him. He doesn't really do any sustain for the team, so there's no point in making him a healer. He doesn't have a large health pool. I have him as a striker for the triple taps, but you can also, if you want to make sure your Merc Riot Guard stays alive, if your focus is to keep him alive so he can continue to do more deflects, and you want to be really annoying with this character, you can consider him a fortifier too, I would think. But I think just to be honest, he does end up applying deflects left and right. On enemy turn, 75% chance to apply +1 deflect up to a maximum of 4 to self and adjacent allies. And then you also gain +10 gain 10% block chance per mercenary ally as well. So this guy is gonna be an annoying pest, no matter how you look at it. I've tried already fortifier at level 1 and 3, and it's just not enough. It really isn't good, to be honest, unless you take it up all the way up to level 5. So at level 5, I can recommend fortifier for you guys, but it's wasted. I've tried it I think last time we did the same thing for Doctor Strange, and someone recommended him as a fortifier so he could stay alive. Honestly, he still kept doing a lot better once I changed him back to healer, and he actually died a lot more often with fortifier. You just don't get enough barrier at level 1 and level 3 fortifier, so you can consider a fortifier for him if you want to take him up to level 5, but other than that, I think Striker just makes all the sense in the world for him. Fortifier is because he's always taunting. Those triple taps are great though. Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, I think Fortifier at level 5. At level 5, underneath that, there's just no benefits. He will gain so much block chance already from his team, and he's gonna gain deflect anyways from that. That I think the triple taps make more sense for this guy. Fortifier isn't really good unless you get higher levels, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. Fortifier is good on a low level characters. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but hey, it's unfortunate at tier 1. You know, we know that ISOs are gonna get we're gonna see more ISOs come in, or level 2 ISOs, tier 2 ISOs. So you know, we'll have to see what happens from there. But as it stands right now, I think Striker is what you want to do with this bad boy right here. And then the last mercenary, because like I said, I know we talked a little bit about Soldier, but the last mercenary is Merc Sniper, and I also once again have him as a striker. This guy hits pretty hard too on his basic, because he also hits for piercing as well. So he ends up attacking for 290 damage. But if you're running your Merc team with Merc Sniper, he ends up also hitting 20% piercing as well on him. So, and outside of that, he really doesn't do too much for your team except for just that basic attack, attacking the permanent target for 260 damage and 40% piercing with steady aim. Actually, if you T4 this one hits next level on him. And then you gain 15% damage and gain 5% piercing with his passive. So he's all damage, but he's all damage and he's all single damage. So with Merc Sniper, there's only really one option, and that's Striker. So we're gonna showcase them right now in Blitz, but once again, take this with a grain of salt, because this is not as good as they are in War. Here, let me lose a couple real quick, or just one. I just want to get as many turns with them. Alright, so I'm running this team composition in Blitzing, but once again, this is probably not the order that I would run in War. In War, I actually have my Taskmaster in the edge. Then I have my Merc Riot Guard right here, so he can apply deflex to Taskmaster. And then I have my Merc Lieutenant actually in the middle. Let's lose another one. Let's get a fight that I just want to get a fight that we can get a couple of turns in, so we can see everybody take advantage of strikers, you know, of Taskmaster. And unfortunately, in Blitz, you won't see all the assists granted either, right? That's the other aspect. You won't see it in here. We're still gonna do this. Oh, I simmed it. Well, in sim we won. Here, let's do this one. Wartime hit me on Discord. I got you, Scuba. No worries. So this is definitely not the same thing that you will see in War. Once again, we're missing all the assists from Taskmaster. But for you guys to get an idea as to what happens here. So I'm actually going to start by doing this AoE. Let me put this in ×2 speed. Alright, so Skirmisher. So he ends up getting that. The only one that's going to take full advantage of this is going to be Bullseye. Triple tap. He ends up applying Skirmisher again, and he attacks again. Here's the assist again. So I have him as a healer. This is not going to do anything. Another assist here. And then, actually, he's going to get deleted. So I'm going to save. It doesn't matter. He's going to get deleted. So let's go over here for Luke Cage. And then I'm actually not attacking on that turn. I'm actually doing taunt. So here we go. Another Skirmisher for Hulk. And then here comes an attack again. Double tap. Triple tap whenever Taskmaster ends up assisting on the same attack as well. But if not, you still manage to get that double tap. And this is what they do. Forever going to forget to turn off sim. I know, Miraculous Mass. I'm always going to do that. I hate it because I'm so used to it. I never take it off unless I'm doing you know, this sort of video. But as you guys can see, even in here, whenever the assists were happening, it was triple taps. In war, it's at a different level. It's always guaranteed. You're always going to have those assists to deal with. Same thing with Bullseyes as well. Whenever Merc Riot and Merc Lieutenant do their non-attack abilities, he's going to be assisting as well. So when you have Taskmaster as a skirmisher, every time he's doing an assist, you will have vulnerables left and right on the battlefield. So guys, that was Mercs. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is definitely shorter than all my other you know, ISO 8 teams that we do on Wednesday, but I felt like this one was precise and to the point because there's not too many options. You really want to run your Taskmaster as a skirmisher, at least within the faction, and definitely in war defense, so that you can take advantage of that. And then taking advantage of him assisting every time, you do want your striker, so you can at least have your double taps or triple taps whenever that happens as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was ISO 8. Till the next one.